and welcome to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name is Eric, and I am the host for this conversation. We are back. This is kind of part 2 of another follow-up episode to one that we previously did with Brian Smith and Ed Uszynski, the authors of Away Game, which is a Christian parent's guide to navigating youth sports. Guys, thank you for joining us for another conversation. We had previous, if you're a church leader, a ministry leader, we had a wonderful conversation. We made an episode that we recently released just on how churches can partner with sports instead of compete with sports in your churches, how you can have a theology of play and help partner with parents in viewing Christian athletes as Christian disciples and come alongside of them. So we'd highly encourage you to go check out that episode. But this episode and this conversation is kind of a part 2 to that conversation. We wanted to dive a little bit deeper for parents who are involved with your children's youth sporting events. And we wanted to create a resource to help guide and encourage you to come alongside of your students that are playing sports and not just be frustrated that it's a cold day and you got to sit outside and watch a 3-hour baseball game. But how do you leverage those things for Christian athletes for the discipleship? So Brian and Ed, tell us, our audience, a little bit about yourselves and how did the book Away Game kind of come to be?
Yeah, thanks for having us back, Eric. Well, Brian and I have worked in a sports ministry called Athletes in Action for over 50 years combined. That's where we met each other. We both come from deep sports backgrounds. Brian was a cross-country runner, a track athlete. I was a basketball player. We both married into athletic. We married athletic wives, and our whole lives have really been immersed in sport culture, really from the beginning, and our whole vocational life has. So Athletes in Action, we work with college and professional athletes and help them lead them to Jesus and hopefully growing in their faith. So we've been doing that for a long, long time. But about 15 years ago, we both became youth sport parents. Brian and Lindsay have 3 kids. Amy and I have 4. And so we were like thrown into this youth sport world, both as watchers and as coaches, and just realized how completely in over our heads we were. And we've used this language a ton. Like, we just realized we needed an intervention. Because it's just a completely different world from ministering to college athletes, and realized also that we felt like we were a big part of the problem as we were struggling and just were looking around feeling like something's just not right about this journey. And guess what? We're actually contributing to it not being right. So we started having those conversations with each other a lot. And we're trying to get help from within the church and other Christian folks, and just realized, man, there just hasn't been a lot written about this, or even it's not even really being talked about. How do you think with a Christian mind and operate in a Christian way in the midst of the youth sport culture as it currently exists? So that's how we got going on it. Brian, I'll pass the mic to you. What else would you add to that in terms of our background?
Yeah, we both have higher levels of education in the space too. And so Ed has a doctorate in culture studies, and I'm not sure what everything is. I have a master's in theology and sport studies, which I always joke around with him. I feel like being a master is better than being a doctor. But he paid a lot more for the better title there.
But both of us realized neither of those journeys helped us solve the problem of what's happening when my kid's crying after a game.
Yes.
Right?
It's so true. Yeah. We both coached at just about every single level. I'd already mentioned we both played sports. Our wives are former athletes as well. And so we just have this unique resume where we have played, coached, ministered, learned in the space for a very long time together. And we're hoping that the cumulative everything comes together in a book for us, but also for lots of other Christian sports parents.
I love that. I love that you're not only experts on the subject, but you're honest about living in the trenches as parents, parents of athletes, and even marrying into athletic families, and that's amazing. So this episode might have been sent to a parent by your pastor, by somebody else, and they were encouraging you to listen to this because we really want to help equip you to understand the pressures of culture. So many times right now in our world, we see sports as something that's disassociated with the church. And we want to help understand that as Christians, we shouldn't disassociate anything, that Christ is the center of our lives, and that we want to help equip you and have a mindset where you can be a Christian athlete. You can be a Christian athlete's parent. You can still do discipleship. You don't have to take your son or daughter to the church youth group every week in order for them to be discipled. That's your role. You get to do that. And so to that end, what are some of the pressures that you guys see parents often face when it comes to sports and the conflict of scheduling and getting to church and being consistent? Like, speak into some of that.
I'm so glad you actually just kind of put that disclaimer on the front. Brian and I always feel a little insecure even when we're being invited into these spaces, because we're just afraid that parents are right away going to assume that we are going to tell them to get out, or, you know, put sports up as this bad thing that they need to get under control in some kind of way. And there may be room for having those conversations, but that's really not what our perspective is. We think sport's a good thing, and we just need to change our approach as parents. And it's, you know, what it is today, and we're all living in the same culture. It's turned into this $40 billion industry. That's a new thing. That's a relatively new thing, that the amount of money that we're spending and the amount of money that's involved is really a result of the last 20 years. But it has implications. When something gets that big and there's that much money involved, it starts to take on a life of its own, which, again, I think you all notice these things. Like, sports used to really be about play when we were growing up. I'm 58. Brian's in his 40s. I mean, there was a time we can remember where it really was about play, and now it's really more about performance and winning. There's this pressure to win. It used to be really kid-centered, and now it's a lot more adult-centered, way more adult involvement in the youth sports scene. It was affordable where just anybody could play kid sports, and now it's like a luxury to be able to play in the clubs that are around us. A couple more. It used to be really local. You know, it really did. I think we just need to remind ourselves it really did used to be not that long ago that you played games right down the streets, or maybe you got in the car to go just on the other side of town, not going across state lines, which is what is happening, you know, on a lot of weekends for us now. It was seasonal, where you play for 6 weeks and then the sport was done, unless you just want to play pickup with your friends for the next few months. And now it's literally year round. Almost every sport is trying to get us to have year round experiences with them. Mm-hmm. I remember when it used to really be fun. It just was fun in the moment instead of stress about the future and always thinking about, is this the right choice for right now? When she's 9, is she going to be able to make this or that team? Do we go with this club or that club? They're both promising different things. Like, that's a new thing. And I think it's just good even for us to be reminded of that this is not normal. It's something new that's true for us now that we have to learn to navigate. It's overwhelming. Yeah. And we got to learn how to navigate what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. As parents that love Jesus, we love the local church, and yet our kids play sports. There are all kinds of different messages that are being sent to us, to our children, about why you play sports. For many people, it's their reputation, it's their identity. For some, it's their future. It's a scholarship hope. It's, you know, an opportunity to be accepted and loved. And so to understand as parents that all of those things are at play in and through their students, and those are pressures that they're facing. And yet for us as parents, we feel guilty that we might not have family dinner together. We feel guilty that we might not be consistent at church. we feel guilty that, mom and dad might have to go separate directions because one kid's playing this sport and the other kid's playing that sport.
Or that we picked the wrong team, and there's a coach that our kid just is not having a good time with, and you spent all this money and we're sitting here. Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons to feel bad.
Yeah. Those things are so real. So Brian and Ed, kind of speak into, how do we as parents know and understand, one, those pressures that they're facing, but how do we step into that and leverage those things in an area of discipleship, in an area of where we can see and understand our children and kind of speak into those weighty things that they're facing?
Yeah, I feel like you both set this up perfectly, because we've talked for the last year about how what you sports parents have done and are doing is we're buying ourselves a ticket. And it's a lot of what Ed already talked about. We've invested an enormous amount of time, money, social capital. And what happens when you have a massive investment in anything, right? You hope you get a pretty good return on that value. And so we put a lot of pressure, not just on ourselves, but also on our kids of like, man, I bought you the $600 bat, and whether I communicate it or not, we both know there's an expectation that you're going to make contact this time and it's going to get past second base, right?
Yep.
And so there is this just like weighty expectation that comes when we've invested so much. And what we've had to say this to ourselves too, but what we're trying to communicate with other people is we've almost trusted sport for too little. If all we're looking for is the athletic performance or the spot on the high school team or that 1.5% of people who actually get the scholarship, the ticket that it's actually buying us is a front row seat to seeing our kids go through every possible emotion, the high highs and the low lows, and the coach pulling them out of the game to see how they interact, with teammates when they do well or poorly. All of these things, sport is really life with the volume turned up. And so we get to see our kids in a space where normally we don't. Like normally as parents, we just like, they get home from school and we're asking, how was your day? And we get the 2-word answer. It was good. It was fine. And we don't know what happened during the bulk of the day. But in sports, we don't have to guess. We get to watch all of it. And so for us to have a perspective change of like, that really is a gift, whether or not they use that $600 bat to hit it out of the park or they strike out again. What happens at those moments afterwards become discipleship opportunities, but we need to almost shift our level of caring to that greater ticket. We need to care more about discipleship than athletic performance. And it's not saying we don't care about athletic performance or that we stop doing that. We just need a reordering of our priorities, especially as Christian people, right? Especially as Christian people who should care more about the formative aspects of our character than anything that we're performing for other people.
Brian, you use that word discipleship, and probably important to say this too. We are all already being discipled by sport culture. All of us are. As parents, we are. Our kids are. ESPN, as an example, is teaching us how we should think about sports, how we should think about winning and losing, how we should think about where we fit in on the hierarchy, and how we think about ourselves and our identity, where our security comes from, what really, really matters, whether team is important versus the individual. I mean, we could go on and on. It is coaching us and training us to think a certain way. Again, without making too dramatic of a statement, it's training us most of the time in anti-gospel ways. Not always evil, but certainly it's not training us to follow in the footsteps of Jesus in any of those categories. And so, in fact, if anything, it's teaching us that this Jesus thing is good for a little shout out after a win. Maybe I'm going to thank my Lord and Savior in some kind of way, but that's the extent of where the Jesus thing comes in. And so, again, just to even recognize we're all at a deficit when it comes to thinking well about sports. Our kids definitely are, but even we are. And so there needs to be some reformation, some transformation in our own thinking before we can actually do a better job with our kids. if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Speak into the identity piece of it for students. How do parents help their Christian athlete, their son or daughter they can be very wrapped up in their identity as an athlete, a captain, a performance, like all of those things can get tied up. How do parents come alongside and help them understand their true identity in Christ, even the love and acceptance of mom and dad, regardless of performance, regardless of how they do? What encouragement, what would you challenge parents on with that?
I'm often reminded when we get questions like this, even when I'm thinking about it with my own relationship with my kids who are athletes, of when Jesus was baptized, and right after he comes out of the water, you get the dove, and you hear the voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased." And that's before Jesus did any of his earthly ministry. So before Jesus performed, before he healed and engaged with people on the margins, before he died and rose again, like before he did all of that stuff, God said, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." It was a pleasure grounded in relationship and not in performance. So for parents, that's a reminder to us that, like, yeah, cheer for our kids. And I hope our kids all do well and reach their goals. But our kids need to have this, they need to feel from us that they have the freedom to play from a position of love and not for love, from a position of worth and not for worth. And that happens when we consistently remind them that we love them, that nothing that happens today on the field is going to change that love, that we enjoy watching them play a game, and that they begin to feel that mom and dad are just as excited to talk to me after a game, whether it goes really, really well or really, really poorly. And so it is this weird space where we just need to be careful that our own level of excitement doesn't disciple our kids into thinking that we are only showing them affection and love when things go really well in sport, and we're more silent and reserved when things don't go well.
Brian, you said that. I think we need to do an inventory, which can be difficult to do, but to do self-assessment on what I'm actually communicating to my kids, not just what I think. Because I would imagine most parents listening would say, "Yeah, I think I'm doing a good job of that." Of course, they know I love them, and don't realize just how many touch points along the way. I'll speak for myself. It was alarming to me when I actually did this same kind of work and started thinking about what's really happening between me and my kids. And I was doing an inventory of our times after games, after practices on the way. And it was amazing and disturbing how often I was correcting, how often I was rebuking them, telling them something needed to be different. If you would just do more of this, all well-intentioned too. Like I'm not yelling necessarily, although sometimes I am yelling. I'm just correcting constantly, and just not even realizing that, well, what that's doing. Again, Brian, you and I have had such great conversations about this. That's what has shed light on this for me, is being in conversations about it. I'm 3 or 4 times a day telling them, "You're not performing well enough." And maybe they're getting a hug or 2 a week, saying, "I love you no matter what." So was way more times that I was actually saying, you're not enough. You're not measuring up. You could do better.
Without actually saying that, right?
Yeah. Well, never literally said it quite like that, but I was saying you could do better at this sport. Yeah. If you would just do this, if you would just do that, why do you keep doing this or that? And I needed to stop in my house. Like I had to make a decision. Like you said, it's a discipline to catch myself and say, "Oh, I need to overwhelm them with, you know what? I got your back no matter what happens." Can I just remind you of that? It's making sure I am literally hugging after every game, no matter what. It's the first thing. You're going to get physical contact from me before you get words, before you get attitude or anything else. You're getting a strong hug that says, "I love you, man." And today was bad. So this is the other thing. Like, we're not faking it. Yeah, things didn't go well today. You didn't play good today. It's all right. Let's go get ice cream.
Yep. Yeah.
We keep saying, Eric, too, like it really does start with us as parents, doing the self-inventory, like Ed said, to like, if we really do want any hope in helping disciple our kids through sport, it's going to start with us having our own devotional time with the Lord and saying, God, would you help reveal things in me that I'm not seeing right now? Would you help me to see gaps in my character? God, why am I yelling at a ref when I know it's bad? It's like Paul in Romans 7. I know the good I should do, but I'm not doing it. Why at a sports game does the bad I don't want to do always come out? That's an opportunity for growth. But I think that it is highly beneficial to be in relationship with other people where we can talk about these things. That's what, like, Ed has been massively influential in my life, just in being able to process. I have a freshman wrestler who does not want to know anything about his opponent before he wrestles them. And I feel like he needs to know that. And so I'm able to process that with Ed. It drives me crazy that Hudson doesn't want to know that this guy is ranked number 2 in the state. He needs to prep for him. And Ed can help talk me off the ledge and why this is actually a good thing he doesn't want to know, and you need to listen to what he's telling you that he wants from you in this space. So it really does it starts with us saying, God, would you help me to be rightly positioned so that I can help my kid get the most out of this experience?
It's good.
I love that. I love that, Brian. I think the need for community in being a Christian parent, in being a parent, period, is hard.
Yeah.
And so I tell my kids, I have a 9 and a 7-year-old, and I tell them every night before bed, I love you all the time, no matter what. I'll always love you. Now, I tell them though, and they know it to the point where they'll repeat it back to me. And if I'm honest, as a parent, I'm not trying to be some like super spiritual, but there are times where I need that reminder more than I know that they need that reminder.
Totally.
It's like, I'm choosing to love you because you were a little turkey today, and I'm not really a fan of you. I'm glad you're going to bed because Dad needs some alone time away from you.
Yeah. Well, and don't you feel that way after games sometimes too? Like, I'm embarrassed by the way you played today. I feel a little bit of shame because you won't do things differently, and so you're on the bench all the time, and everybody else gets to cheer for their kids, and I don't. Like, it's really easy for that to sneak in. We did pay a ton of money for this, and you look like you're more interested in looking at the daisies than chasing that kid down. Whatever. There's a long list of those. And so
that's where I want to go next, because I think if, again, man, if parents, if we can be honest with ourselves, to know and understand that your identity, we just talked about your child's identity, but to know and understand that your identity is not wrapped up in your kids' success or performance or their abilities. So for you guys as parents, how do you differentiate that? How do you stay rooted and grounded in Christ when, I was the dad that, my son was 5 and we put him in youth soccer, and, our literal next door neighbor who we're trying to build a relationship with, their son is crying because he didn't score his 8th goal. And my son can't even stand on the field, and he's got his head inside his jersey, spinning around and sitting down on the ground. I'm embarrassed. Right. Yep. But how do you, like, oh my word, like, how do you not connect that to your own identity?
Yeah, it's going to sound, there's so much, we could fill up the whole rest of our time just talking about that. I love the idea still of having to do self-assessment and recognizing how full of fear I am, how many regrets I have from my own past, what I'm thinking about the future that I want to control, even though I know I can't. I want to try to control it. So just to become aware of those things, even, I think, is a step of growth. What Brian and I talk about all the time, just the need to have a Devo time in the car, in the parking lot, before we go into these spaces. We literally do it. At least, again, just a self-check that I literally will say, Eric, what you just said, my identity is not attached to how he or she plays or doesn't play today. Lord, help me, like Brian said, help me remember that. Help me watch my tongue. Trey's asked me not to yell things out at all from the stands. Help me not to do that. I mean, let's bring the Spirit of God into, like, don't leave God in the parking lot. That's what we say all the time. Don't leave the Spirit of God in the parking lot. Engage him before you walk in. And then at least I have God consciousness at that point that might keep me in line and remind me that this isn't even ultimately about me. There's something bigger going on here that goes way beyond me and my kids' life and the journey that God has them on. How do I come alongside that and play my role as his or her primary discipler and parent instead of coach and trainer, which comes way easier to me?
Good.
And critic and agent. You know, we talk about that. I'd much rather be my kid's agent than discipler, but I need to be his discipler. That's what I'm going to be measured on.
Yeah. I think we need to pray for self-awareness. Like that could be a devotional that we're praying before we get out of the car and go to the stands or the field. Is God, would you just give me the self-awareness to know what's going on in my heart and my head as I watch my kid play? And God, the categories I want you to make me aware of are my identity, my level of caring of what other people think about me. So even as we're having this conversation later today, I'm a track coach, and the distance guys are really, really good, and they're going to roll today at this meet. And I know it's going to make me feel like I'm something as I walk the track and I get to talk to them after they beat everybody else. And I need to do the reminder of like, why do I care so much about when my guys win and do well, that it makes me feel like everybody in the stands is looking at me and I'm propped up? Like there's some deep repentance that needs to happen because of that. I can't just ignore that. I need to explore that a little bit. Like, God, why do I still care about, I'm 40, almost 44 years old. Why do I still care that the way 16-year-olds compete somehow affects my identity with everybody in the stands? Like, at one part, I'm really frustrated that that's still true of me. The other part is that sport is a mirror, and it shows the true value, or not the true value. It shows truly where I'm at right now. And so that is a gift. As much as it stinks that it's still true of me, the gift is I have a true reflection of where I'm at. And so I need to repent and ask that I would grow from that.
And that's even more complicated.
Still hope my kids dominate next week too.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. And we say this all the time, dude. You should feel good when they do good. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about that. And you should hope that they dominate. But there's this thin line between feeling good, the joy that comes from something positive happening, and it becoming an idol. It's about me.
Yeah.
So I love that what you said though, Brian. Become more aware.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you, Ed, let's play off of that. How do you identify when you or your kids, when sports have become an idol? What are some maybe warning signs or symptoms of that?
Yeah.
And then what do you do with it? How do you pull that back?
Well, when they become an idol, I mean, I would say, again, I'm thinking through for my kid and for me. I'll speak for me. When we've already said a whole bunch of this, when most of what's coming out of my mouth is corrective, and it's fueled by fear, it's fueled by this imagined future. Like I'm thinking about that. Like I'm not enjoying this moment right here in front of me right now because I'm literally thinking about he's not going to get seen by so-and-so because he won't shoot more. He's not going to make the JV team next year. Like my mind is going to the future. So I'm taking the place of God. I'm trying to operate like God in this moment. When I'm angry, when I'm feeling these they become negative emotions in youth sports I'm with 12-year-olds playing, and they don't even know how to play the game yet. But I'm feeling all of this, and what's coming out of my mouth is about more correction, and it's all performance-based. That's when I know I'm in trouble. Because here's the counter. The counter is I'm not thinking about the future at all. And I've had both of these experiences. I'm just not, because I realize they may never play another day of this sport ever again. You know, again, it's just being reminded that the next day is not even promised to you.
That's good.
Let alone 7 years from now. And stop with that.
Right.
So I can be at peace. I actually can just enjoy watching them warm up stretch. I literally find joy just that I have a child whose body is able to come out and experience this on the grass in the infield as they warm up or whatever, going through a layup line or kicking goals at the goal, that I actually feel joy about that I actually am more aware of the people around me, not as competitors in the stands or as somebody that I'm trying to measure myself against, but I know they're scared and I know they're thinking about their future and I know they feel insecure. How can I bless them in some way in the midst of that?
Yeah.
How can I relieve them of what they're feeling? Even as I'm feeling some of it, what if I got my eyes off myself and relieve them? Those are two very, very, very different ways of being there. Instead of just looking at performance stuff, the performance stuff is always there. What if I'm watching also for demeanor, and I'm watching for posture and attitude and who they're interacting with and how they go through the handshake line after the game and how they deal with getting pulled out, and whether that looks like and smells like Christ, or does that look like and smell like, an ESPN talk show, what I just saw.
Right.
It's just two entirely different ways of being at the game. And like I said, I've done both. Yeah. And there's only one right answer for me, and that's to be over on this other side. So
yeah, that's good. That's good, Ed. Yeah. Brian, any thoughts on that? The idolism, or
I agree with Ed's entire exhaustive list. That was great. I would add for me, for me, I feel like I drift probably more towards idolatry when I treat sports like a compartmentalized space where God's not involved. And it's not because I'm intentionally forgetting about him, but I just get so wrapped up in what I'm seeing that I'm not practicing God's presence at all. And so I like, part of that is, I think the goodness is I want to be in the moment and I want to watch and enjoy, like Ed's saying. But if I'm not connected to God and talking with him as I'm watching, I know my own heart is just to drift and care way too much about performance metrics. And so I really do need a connection with God where I'm practicing continuity in prayer with him. The other thing that I think is a gauge for me is when I have one kid who's pretty good at sports, and my tendency is to want to record him and then post it on social media. And that's idolatry for me. For me, it's idolatry because I am wanting to tell other people how amazing he is. I know some people are posting just because they want community to know what their kid did that week. For me, I want to brag on my kid. And that's historically why I've posted. And I felt a conviction about that a couple of years ago, that I'm really doing this because I care about what other people think. And so I've experienced just great freedom in not bringing my phone out to games anymore and keeping it in my pocket, or just leaving it in the car and just watching and enjoying. Like, there's so much freedom that I felt from just, and I may miss a great moment of something that happened, but somebody's always recording something.
Yep.
For me, just being freed up to watch and not feel like I need to capture every moment.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that.
You've used that language. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
No, you finish up.
Well, you've used that language of freedom, Brian. I mean, we keep saying that to each other, that really is our ultimate goal for us and for our kids. And ironically, the path to freedom is to take our hands off of the performance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Take a breath.
It's to back off of that. And what have we been saying, Brian, for the longest time now? The irony is by releasing them, there's a really good chance they might actually play better.
The ceiling is raised, we're arguing. And the studies would back this up too, that when kids, when they don't play out of a position of fear and being timid, when they experience this freedom that mom and dad love me, and if I try a new skill and fail, I'm not going to be crushed by them, that I can actually try something, fail, and learn. It does actually allow athletes to try new things. And that's how athletes get better. They risk and they learn and they get better, and they risk and learn and get better. But when they get the $600 bat and they swing and miss and they feel crushed, guess what? They're not going to swing the next time. So it really does. If we can help our kids just experience freedom, which starts with us, again, it starts with us just being able to take a deep breath and not overreacting all the time. It really does best position our kids to reach their potential in sport. Now, that's not why we do it, right? We do it because God wants us to live out of a position of freedom and not fear. God wants us to flourish in that space. But the side benefit is that we really do. And we've experienced this working with college athletes too. When athletes are playing free, most of the time they're going to play better.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about this. I need to get better to do everything you just talked about, to be released from performance goals and start getting better at process goals. What do we mean by that? Performance goal is that we win the game. It's kind of what's at the end of this line. They hit a home run or they score the goal is a performance goal. But you keep using that illustration of we buy the $600 bat and then they strike out with it. Well, a lot of our kids just won't even swing it. A lot of our kids won't even just stand in the batter's box. So maybe the win is not even that we get so worked up about them getting a big hit with it. It's just, hey, how about today if our goal was literally just to take one swing when you're in that batter's box today? And when they take that one swing, they won the World Series. Yes.
Yeah, you cheer,
clap it, celebrate it. They strike out at the end of it. It's terrible. The end of it is just like, no, it's terrible in the stat book, but you set this up for them so that they could get a win. And it's real because guess what? Before you're going to hit the home run, you actually have to swing the bat.
Yep.
So you just bring this thing way back, and we're just going to be in this moment right here and just try to take that next little step, and we're going to celebrate it. Just like we did when they were babies and they first got up on their feet for the first time and they stumbled twice and fell down, and we felt like that needed to be put on Facebook. You couldn't even call that walking. Like that's nothing, but we saw it as this process goal, and it was amazing. You need to do the same thing in sports.
Yeah. All right. With our time remaining, I'd love to tackle one more thing here that I feel like in this conversation we might be missing a little bit. For the parents who maybe their faith is waning themselves, or maybe a lot of parents, it's probably human nature. We always think like, I'm not fully equipped to have these discipleship conversations with my kids. Even as a longtime pastor, I still am like, I don't know if I can do it with my kids. I don't know if I can lead a Bible study with them. Like, so I know in your book, Away Game, you guys help think through like every level of sports, every level of your kids' athletic ability and experience. How do you help? What do you say to parents that they're like, I don't know how to have those conversations? Or I could read a discussion guide and ask the question, but if my kid asks me how I'm doing with finding my identity in Christ, I don't have it to give. Where do you start? How do you encourage parents in that process? Maybe it's just go buy the Away Game book and dive in. I'll sell your books.
Yeah, I would say for the parent who feels ill-equipped and that they don't know how to do this, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. And any parent who's like, I got this, I know exactly what to do. That parent would make me a little bit more nervous than the parent who's like, I don't think I can do this, but I'd like to learn. I'd like to get better at it.
Right.
Are those not the people that Jesus chose to be his 12 and walk with? Like they weren't the best of the best. They were like the misfits. And so, yeah, I think starting from a position of like, I just don't know how to do it, but I want to learn is a foundational great spot for anyone to be in before God uses them to do something or anything. For me, because I feel the same oftentimes, even though I've discipled athletes my entire life, I feel so ill-equipped with my own kids. Even this morning, I'm driving my son to school. I get one day a week with my kids where I take them out for breakfast and to do something with them. And we didn't talk about anything but listen to music because I couldn't think of like a good question to ask or a way to turn the conversation. And I just felt like I've been doing this for 20 years with other people and I can't even move past this song or a sporting event with my kid. So all that to say, like, I totally get it. For me, if I have an equipping of like, here are 2 or 3 good questions to ask at a base level, I feel like that can at least get me going towards a deeper level of conversation with my kids. And that's what I'm really looking for in discipleship. I want to move past the how was your day? How did the game go? Did you win? How did you feel? I want to get to that second, third level, but to get there requires me asking better questions. So just, I think growing as a question asker is a good next step to take.
So funny, Brian. I love that. And we can all do that. We can, to be equipped with a handful of questions that we go to and then ask one more question. That's what I was thinking to myself. I just need to ask the next question, which is tell me more about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great skill to have. The other thing that I thought that goes along with questions is just be humble about your own story. Now, again, I know we all have different relationships with our kids. It's different at different ages. There's been different, scars that have maybe already been created that are hard to overcome. So there's a lot of different things to talk about inside of this. But wow, I want to really lean in the direction of just telling the truth about my own journey. So Eric, even what you said, when I'm feeling insecure about something, I talk to my kids about feeling insecure about it.
Yeah.
When I yelled out something during a game and they pointed it out to me and I'm embarrassed, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. And this is what was going on inside of me. And that was a bad decision. I just shouldn't do that, dude. Let's just talk about it. That's a really good direction to err in long term.
And I would, maybe I can add one more too. If I'm wanting to disciple my kids in the way of the Lord, it does require me, yes, to ask good questions, but it requires me to make sure that I am growing in my own walk with the Lord. And so I need to make sure that I'm in my Bible every day. I need to make sure that I'm talking with God. And if what I'm doing is just telling my kids what I'm learning in the Bible every day and how it's impacting me, that's discipleship. Again, it just means you need to be in your word and trying to figure out what is the Lord teaching me through this passage or my time this week. And then how can I communicate that to my kids?
Yeah. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability. When we're willing to be honest, authentic with our students, when we share that time, if your son or daughter, that athlete, they're wrestling with rejection or failure, you might not have the exact same experience. Maybe you didn't play sports, but you can tell of a time where you faced failure or felt like a failure. You could tell a time where you felt rejected. You could help connect those dots with them and equip them with those transferable principles that you understand the emotion that they're feeling. And this is how God showed up for you in that season, or this is how you learned or fought through the difficulty. And so I love what you guys are saying there.
Most of my lectures, so I got 4 kids ranging from 25 to 15. I'm pretty sure most of my lectures have been really ineffective with them. I'm pretty sure my sermons, my corrective thoughts, even my exhortations from the Bible have not stuck nearly as much as me being honest and transparent about my own life. Oh, and just doing this, I'm going to throw this out here because I've been doing this for years. On the way to school, we either read from the book of Proverbs, the chapter of the day. So what is the day today? Let's say it's the 16th or the 17th. We're gonna read the chapter for that week or for that day. I'm sorry. I've listened to it. So now we listen to this app called Streetlights, and there's other ones out there like that where they read the chapter and there's some music playing in the background. We don't ever even talk about it. I just have it going as we drive. It's over in 1 minute. I was at an event the other day where my 22-year-old and I were speaking. We were being interviewed, and he literally referenced back. Jack never said a word for years of listening to Proverbs on the way to school. And he mentioned that the other day when they said, what was it like growing up with your mom and dad? And he said, one of the things that stuck out to me is that we listen to the book of Proverbs every day on the way to school. And I've never ever heard him talk about it before. It was, again, on this panel was the first time. And it was just an affirmation that, again, I didn't even say anything. It's doing exactly what Brian just said. I want to do this for myself because I want to hear these Proverbs. It's easy to grab onto. We're going to do it together. No lecture, no speech. Have a great day at school. But it stuck. It did something to him.
That's so good.
That was a good moment. That was a win.
Yeah. Well, we want to help partner with parents and help you celebrate those wins, and for mom and dad, for you guys to be able to experience these same things. So We're mindful of that. We're praying with you for the team here at Momentum Ministry Partners. We care deeply about that. And I know Brian and Ed, you guys, your heartbeat and your fingerprints of that mindset are all over the pages of Away Game. So to parents of athletes, go get a copy. Be bold. Ask your youth pastor, hey, would you buy me a copy of Away Game? Get several copies for others on your kid's sports team. Like, go get this resource. There's questions in there. There's framework for you. There's things that will help you engage with your son or daughter in these areas. And so another just final note on this, we'll link to that book. You can get it in the show notes. We'll link to the websites and resources that both Brian and Ed have mentioned. The other thing that I want to make mention of, that Momentum partners with an organization called Axis. Axis.org is their website, AXIS. If you're looking for understanding tough topics, how do you have conversations with your teenagers in these areas? If they're having doubts, if you're getting ready to have the sex talk with them, if they're wrestling with wanting to get a cell phone and you're not ready for all that, there are conversation starters on the Access website. They have what they call parent guides. They have a culture translator newsletter that comes out every Friday that has questions in it that you can ask. They're good questions, like Ed was saying earlier, that you can ask your students. So leverage these resources. Use these things, mom and dad, to help you disciple your children. And then last piece with all of this is reach out to us, reach out to your pastor. If you want that community and to be able to engage in these conversations, then sometimes it just requires us speaking up first. So any final thoughts, Ed or Brian?
We got to do this together. We can't do it on our own. So let's link arms with other people who are imperfect and want to do things differently, and see if we can, for the glory of God, the good of our kids, but also our own sanity in the process.
Amen.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. Well, thank you guys for writing this book. Thank you for creating resources that would benefit us as Christ followers and help grow the kingdom. So we appreciate you. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. If you found this episode helpful, would you subscribe, rate, and leave us a review? That helps more people discover this podcast. We'd also love for you to share this episode with someone in your network who could benefit from the conversation. Because we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us an email to info@buildmomentum.org. Or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. And if you want to learn more about Momentum Youth Conference, Urban Centers, Reese College Akron, Momentum Marketplace, or Momentum Pro, head over to buildmomentum.org. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.